The CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, went out publicly during an interview and stated that he's a ferocious Zionist and that you can't take Zionism out of Judaism. So let's take a listen to this, and I'm going to talk to you guys about why that's pretty problematic here. So take a listen.
Look, just to step back for a minute, I am a ferocious, unapologetic Zionist. I am so deeply connected to this place by my family, by my sense of peoplehood. Look, I'm the grandson of a Holocaust survivor from Germany. I'm the husband of a political refugee from Iran. These are people who fled the only countries they ever knew because of raw, violent anti-Semitism. And so the idea that Jews deserve a homeland like everybody else, I really feel that way. That feeling also leads me to say, I think there needs to ultimately be a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that provides Palestinians with dignity and equality in a state of their own. And I don't know what that looks like, and I'm not a political scientist, and so I can't hazard an idea. But ultimately, I worry about the safety and security of Jews if we don't figure out a resolution to this situation in some way, in some form. Now, that being said, we need the other side, if it were, to accept us as equals, to recognize, again, the reasonableness, the historical reality of our Zionism. Like, you cannot take the Zionism out of Judaism. You cannot take the Zion out of the Jewish people.
So I'll play the last 30 seconds here in a bit. I had it sped up if you're wondering about his voice like that. So here's the thing. Well, first off, I find it really funny that he brings up Palestinians and he says, Palestinians deserve a state of their own and they deserve freedom as well. Because, when this guy is saying statements like that, he's probably thinking, why don't we just toss Palestinians to Africa and give them a state over there, or toss Palestinians to Saudi Arabia and give them a state over there. That's kind of how Jonathan Greenblatt operates when he says Palestinians deserve a state of their own. I don't know what that's going to look like. Maybe in Yemen, or maybe in Somalia, maybe just somewhere else. That's kind of what he says when he says that, because he talks a lot about, he calls it Judea and Samaria, quote unquote. So here's the thing. I'm actually going to be making another video on this here in a little bit later, because there was actually a report done on China, on China's on China and anti-Israel bias and everything else, and they talk about the fact, and which is why it's so funny because he's doing it himself. They talk about how by combining Israel and Judaism and anti-Semitism, it makes really blurry lines, because then when you start criticizing Israel or start criticizing Zionism, well, that ends up getting combined together with anti-Semitism. The thing is, though, they're pushing that. He's pushing that. And now that I'm talking about this, it would be the great time to just show my disclaimer here really quick, just so that way this video doesn't get taken down or demonetized or whatever. Again, not intended to promote hate or harassment. All right, great. Now that I've said that, here's the thing. This guy is talking about how we just simply have to accept Zionism. Zionism is a political ideology. It's a political ideology. So now you have a religious group, and they're imposing on the fact that you have to accept their political ideology. I don't want to. I don't want to. You're putting too much on somebody. It's like as if any other group of people has the ability to force you to believe in their political ideology. It's as if Germans said, well, we're going to impose 1940s Germany political party on you guys. I think you know which one I'm talking about. I just kind of have to be careful with my wording. It's the same sort of thing. I don't see how it's any different. But they get away with it because of what? Because of concern, because of fear, really. Because if you just don't oblige, they're going to go ahead and censor the algorithms. They're going to do everything else. They're going to make it illegal. They're going to push laws like the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, conflating the two. This is kind of the Israeli way. This is kind of the pro-Israel way. And then they guilt trip you for feeling bad about it. Listen, if I'm for everybody's self-determination. I'm as somebody who has family in the occupied West Bank, I'm all for people's self-determination. Your self-determination, a group's self-determination, is not allowed to be at the expense of another group's detriment. It's not allowed. One group's self-determination doesn't mean they're going to take away the self-determination of another group of people. You want freedom doesn't mean you get to take freedom away from somebody else in order to get your own. That's not how it works. And they really like to gloss over that with this whole Zionism thing. A Jewish homeland. They act as if they're just, finding a homeland. This is the thing. I mean, they say it themselves. The slogan, a homeland for a people, people without a homeland And a homeland with no people, or whatever that slogan is, it's not even worth getting right because it's just flat out wrong. They say that they went to a land that was basically barren and there was nobody else there, and they took it over and they found their own home that nobody else had before, as if there weren't already people there. You don't get to have a homeland at the expense of stealing somebody else's home. And I think they just don't recognize that. There's that viral clip of that obese settler in the occupied West Bank. The clip's a few years old now, maybe even more actually. And he said, if I don't steal it, somebody else is going to steal it. If I don't steal it, somebody else is going to steal it. So I'm just going to go ahead and steal it. That's kind of the Zionism way. That's the Israeli way. And they do everything they can to justify that. When Zionism first became a thing back in the the late 1800s, 1897, when Theodore Herzl wrote the book A Jewish State, it was incredibly, incredibly controversial at the time, and a lot of Jewish leaders rejected it. And now it's 2026, and they're imposing it. Jonathan Greenblatt's imposing it on us, and if we don't accept it, well, we're haters. We hate their religious group. We hate everything about them because we don't want to accept a political ideology that's at the detriment of Palestinians. That's how they operate, and it's ridiculous. So let's take a little bit more of a listen to the last remaining bit here.
You can't go to a synagogue and find a siddur in any language from any country, any level of observance, and find a page that doesn't mention Yerushalayim or Eretz Israel or Zion. So it is fundamental to who we are, and I think we need our erstwhile partners, if you will, in a peace process to recognize that, like the Emiratis have.
Like the Emiratis have. It's so funny because, I mean, we've been talking about, guys, the Emiratis for quite some time, and now he's saying, like the Emiratis have recognized Israel, they're bought out, they recognize Israel, and we just need the rest of the Arab world to recognize Israel, and we'll just push the Palestinians aside. Maybe we can give them a state in Somalia or something. That's Jonathan Greenblatt routinely talks about the importance of having control of Judea and Samaria for Israel, the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Okay, so it's really, I don't understand how these people operate, because the issue here is that they work so diligently, putting together massive reports, analysis, really going deep on demographic groups and everything. So they do all of that. They compile all of this data. Jonathan Greenblatt, the ADL, is compiling massive amount of data on everybody. They're really looking into the specifics of anti-Semitism in different demographic groups. I mean, it's basically it's a large organization that's basically spying on Americans, getting as much data as possible. So we know they have a shit ton of data. They have all of this data, and the data shows very clearly that anti-Semitism is increasing because of Israel's actions. The data shows that when you support a state stealing land, anti-Semitism increasing. All the data is in front of them, and they outwardly talk about the data. And then when you tell them, well, maybe the issue is Israel, all of a sudden it's like all of the information that they're compiling themselves, it goes flat out the window. And they act dumb. Well, we just don't know. We just don't know why there's all of this hatred. We don't know. While all of the data that they're compiling, they're spending the money on these analysts coming in saying, well, maybe the issue is Israel. Oh, well, no, that can't be it. The issue is actually the fact that people have free speech on X. That's the issue. Oh, actually, the issue is TikTok. That's the issue. It has nothing to do with Israel. Our data, let's put the data aside, actually. Let's put the data aside. We'll talk about it a different day. Let's actually censor TikTok. That'll solve the problem. That's not going to exacerbate anything. And then everybody's going to be, everything's going to be great, and we'll start singing Kumbaya. That's the pro-Israel way. So we'll see how things unfold moving forward. If you found this video interesting, guys, I'd appreciate it if you click the subscribe button below and give it a thumbs up as well. Also, I recently just started my membership, so if you see a join button below on this video too, you'll see a join with a little star. You can join as a member, and you see member-only videos as well. Otherwise, I'll